David Miller was an ordinary young man living in New York. His life was simple, almost too ordinary for a city that never sleeps. His father ran a small convenience store, barely managing to keep the family afloat, while his mother worked part-time at a local library. They didn't have much, but they had peace, they had love, and David believed that was enough. But peace in New York rarely lasts forever. One cold winter night, everything changed. A violent gang war erupted in their neighborhood. Rival groups clashed in the streets, bullets flying, windows shattering, people screaming. In the chaos, David's father stepped outside his little store to lock up for the night. He wasn't part of any gang. He wasn't involved in crime. He was just a hard-working man. But that didn't matter. A stray bullet struck him, and in that single moment, David's world collapsed. The police came, sirens blaring, lights flashing, but after a quick investigation, the case was closed. Gang violence, they said. Nothing we can do. The men who caused it walked free, protected by power, money, and fear. David was left with grief, anger, and a promise to himself that he would never forget. That night, standing over his father's grave, he swore silently. One day, he would make them pay. Years passed, but the pain never left. While his friends went to college, chasing careers and building lives, David walked a different path. He enlisted in the military, where he trained his body and mind, learning discipline, strategy, and combat. He wasn't there just to serve. He was there to prepare. Every push-up, every mile he ran, every weapon he learned to handle, all of it carried the memory of his father. After serving his time, he didn't stop. He studied law, understanding how criminals used loopholes to escape justice. He joined the FBI, blending in as another agent, but inside, he carried a fire that no one else could see. To the outside world, David Miller was a professional, a federal agent dedicated to his country. But deep down, he was a son still mourning, still planning. His real mission had never changed: avenge his father. Slowly, carefully, David began his hunt. He couldn't just go in guns blazing. He had to dismantle the gang from the inside out. He started small. Minor members of the crew were investigated, arrested, and taken off the streets. Illegal shipments of weapons were intercepted before they reached the gang. Their money laundering operations, once hidden, were exposed and shut down. Piece by piece, the empire began to crack. But David was careful. He knew the gang still had powerful allies, people in high places who wanted them untouched. He couldn't reveal his true motives. Every move had to look official, like standard FBI business, even as it all brought him closer to the men responsible for his father's death. The gang felt the pressure. Their leaders grew restless. For years, they had operated with arrogance, believing no one could touch them. Now, their men were disappearing, their money was drying up, and their reputation was fading. And at the center of it all, though they didn't know yet, was David Miller. Finally, after years of quiet war, only one man remained untouchable: Victor Reigns, the ruthless gang leader. He was feared across the city, known for his cruelty, protected by corrupt officials, and guarded by layers of security. He was the man who had ordered the street war that killed David's father. Taking him down would not be easy. David spent months preparing. He studied Victor's movements, his weaknesses, his habits. And then, one night, fate brought them face to face. It wasn't in a courtroom. It wasn't in an interrogation room. It was in the same street where David's father had died years ago. Victor, older now but still dangerous, recognized him. With a smirk, he said, "So, you're the kid whose father got caught in our little war?" David's eyes were cold, his voice steady. "I'm the son of the man you killed. And tonight it ends." What followed wasn't a flashy shootout like in the movies. It was brutal, raw, and personal. Years of rage, pain, and training poured out of David as he confronted the man who had destroyed his family. For the first time in his life, Victor felt fear. The boy he had once dismissed was now the man who held his fate in his hands. By the end of the night, justice was served. The man who had once terrorized New York lay defeated, his empire in ruins. David had done what he promised so many years ago. He had avenged his father. But revenge, as David soon realized, is not the same as peace. Standing in that dark street, with the sound of silence all around him, he expected to feel relief. Instead, he felt emptiness. Because vengeance doesn't bring back the dead. It doesn't erase the pain. It only closes one chapter. In that moment, David understood something his mother had told him long ago, that true victory isn't found in revenge, but in justice. He couldn't change the past, but he could fight for a future where no other son had to feel what he had felt, where no other father was taken away by senseless violence. So David made a new promise. From that night onward, he wouldn't just fight for himself. He would dedicate his life to protecting the innocent, to bringing down criminals who thought they were untouchable, to making sure justice wasn't just a word, but a reality. And so, the ordinary young man who once lost everything became a legend in the city he called home. His story spread across New York, whispered in the streets, told in quiet voices. The boy who turned his pain into strength, the agent who fought the gangs, the son who kept his oath. David Miller's revenge had ended. But his true mission had only just begun.